A hidden tablet, a highlighted prenup clause, forged financial records, a transition plan for life after his wife is gone. What begins as the discovery of an affair quickly spirals into a legal and criminal nightmare involving inheritance theft, staged mental instability, and evidence of murder. This is the kind of story where every document is a weapon, every secret has a price, and one woman must expose the truth before her husband turns her into his next victim.
At a tech gala in San Francisco, hosted by my husband Liam and my cousin Ethan, a familiar dread crept in. As they discussed a new funding round, our baby kicked hard. For months, I'd had this feeling that something in my life was fundamentally off. I forced a smile as Liam came over, his own a perfect veneer. Later that night, in our home office, I discovered the truth and everything shattered. This is my story. I wonder where you are as you hear this. I'm curious how far this will reach. I've changed some details for the story, and any similarity to real people is unintended. But the core of it is devastatingly real, and I hope you learn from it. The conference hall hummed with ambition and quiet betrayals. Liam pulled me aside, his voice a soft warning. Olivia, darling, you're pushing yourself too hard. Running your father's company with a baby coming is too much stress. My grip on my water bottle tightened, my smile fragile. I'm handling it. He placed his hand over mine. A gesture that once felt like comfort now felt like a restraint. You're a visionary, love, not a day to day manager. Let me handle the burden. Your father would have wanted you focused on our baby, not shackled to his old office. The remark was a calculated blow. The company was my father's entire legacy, and Liam wanted to absorb it completely. A strategic acquisition, he murmured, a $90 million valuation. We could get that place in Napa, finally breathe, just us and the baby. I withdrew my hand. I told you I'm fine. A nerve twitched in Liam's jaw. I'm only thinking of you. Across the table, my cousin Ethan spoke up. He'd been observing us, his eyes cataloging every vulnerability. My father left me his company. Ethan received a modest inheritance. He blew on failed startups. Now he was on Liam's payroll. Olivia, he's right, Ethan said, his tone empty. This is about the bottom line, not feelings. The burn rate is unsustainable. You're going to run his legacy into the ground. I'm not selling, I stated. Ethan's face hardened. You're not thinking clearly. I'm protecting his memory. His memory is gone. I shoved my chair back, the legs screeching. Excuse me, I muttered, snatching my clutch. Olivia, hold on, Liam called. I'm fine. The sharp San Francisco Bay breeze hit me as our driver pulled up. The quiet in our Pacific Heights penthouse was overwhelming. His words replayed in my head. I went to our study to look at my father's original design notes, needing to reconnect with his purpose. That's when I noticed it. Our shared desktop was on, logged into Liam's account. A cloud folder I'd never seen before, named Project Nightingale, was syncing files. A cold dread settled in my stomach as I clicked on it. It was encrypted. The password hint was our first anniversary. A wave of nausea washed over me as I typed the date. It opened. The first file was a chat log with a name I recognized, Maya, his sharp, merciless head of counsel. There were no love notes or secret pictures. It was all business: draft term sheets, intellectual property assignments, and restructuring plans. A systematic, ruthless strategy for a hostile takeover, planned in my own home. My blood ran cold when I saw a memo to his external counsel. The subject line was chilling: spousal fiduciary control. He was making a play for my company, for everything my father built. The language was clinical and brutal. Utilize postpartum instability, claim emotional incompetence, initiate guardianship proceedings. This wasn't about protecting me, this was a plan to neutralize me. Our baby kicked again, a panicked flutter in my chest as if it knew. Liam wasn't just unfaithful, he was a predator, and I was his target. I was paralyzed, staring at the screen when I heard the front door open. I quickly closed the folder, my heart hammering as he entered the study. Still working? He asked. his voice laced with false concern. I just nodded, my mind unable to process the depth of his deception. Every touch, every word had been a calculated fraud. Our apartment, once a sanctuary of shared dreams, now felt like the boardroom for my own destruction. Every piece of art we'd chosen together seemed to mock our manufactured life. As I lay beside him pretending to sleep, the rhythm of his breathing, once a comfort, now sounded like a predator's. His face was illuminated by his phone, a faint, satisfied smile on his lips. I knew exactly who he was messaging. The knowledge of that hidden folder on our computer felt like a ticking bomb. I was pregnant, isolated, and married to the architect of my own ruin. That folder was a blueprint for my destruction. It contained our prenup, doctored financial projections for my company, and a subfolder ominously titled Legacy Transfer. The worst part was a highlighted clause in our prenup. It granted him full fiduciary authority over my assets the moment our child was born. Our baby wasn't a blessing to him, it was a loophole. There were legal memos detailing how to exploit postpartum emotional instability to declare me incompetent, securing him custody of our child, and with it, absolute control of my inheritance. I found a draft email to her, to Maya. My hand trembled as I read about the future they were planning, one built on the wreckage of my father's company. She'll be too overwhelmed with the baby to fight back, it read. The last folder contained falsified quarterly reports. He'd paid a forensic accountant to manufacture a financial crisis, creating the perfect justification for his hostile takeover. This was my husband, my partner, my most dangerous adversary. I once believed our problems were just misunderstandings, but on July 12, 2024, I saw the full extent of his betrayal and knew I had to fight back. He saw me not as his wife, but as an obstacle. The thought of my child being raised by him and that woman was unbearable. He wanted my father's legacy, our child, everything. I remembered Ethan's bitter words. This is business, not sentiment. He wasn't just an employee, he was an accomplice. His jealousy over my inheritance had made him Liam's weapon. Liam was counting on me to be a weak, distracted, emotional, pregnant woman. That was his greatest miscalculation. He wasn't just trying to take a company, he was threatening a mother's future. I copied the entire Nightingale folder onto a secure drive. My father's most trusted lawyer was retired now. His number is 312-555-0142. I knew he would help me protect my father's name. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Liam wasn't just cheating. He was plotting my complete ruin. For a moment I was paralyzed, a prisoner in my own home, the weight of his lies pressing down. The panic was replaced by a cold, hard anger. I returned to the computer. Liam and Maya kept a shared calendar in the folder. I found their next secret meeting, a hotel reservation for tomorrow afternoon. That drive held everything. 42 audio clips, 97 pictures, and 15 videos of their planning. My hand shook as I clicked a file. It was a recording of them laughing about how easy this would be. Maya's voice was sharp. The board meeting is set for Thursday, October 24th at the Aeon Center, Suite 41. We will cite her health and install an interim CEO. Liam's reply was smug. Perfect, she'll be too preoccupied to notice. What if she starts fighting back? Maya asked. Liam's voice was ice. Olivia trusts me completely. It'll be over before she even realizes what's happening. The recording ended, leaving a dead silence in the room. My body went numb. This was happening this week. My own husband had scheduled my corporate execution. I forced myself to open another file, dated October 17th, 2024, yesterday. Olivia, if you are seeing this, you found the drive. Your life is at risk. Tonight, at exactly 2:13 a.m., you have to access his office. The network reboots, giving you a 3-minute window when all cameras are offline. It is your only chance. Check Liam's drafts on the study iPad under Project Nightingale. He and Maya are draining the fund. The proof is in there, but it's deleted daily. Move now. Call my lawyer, Mark. He already suspects Maya. My deepest apologies, Chloe. I know this is an impossible request. Stay safe. The text vanished. The time was 10:30 at night. Liam would be home any second. There was no time to think, only to act. I had to see for myself. Tucking my phone into my silk robe, I crept toward the office. It was 10:40 at night. The building's main security would arm in 10 minutes. His private sanctuary smelled of rich leather and architectural paper. I slipped inside, guided by the lights of Chicago. The glow from his design monitors cast long shadows over miniature skyscrapers. Arthur's whole life was in this room, a world of zoning variances and profit margins. Being in his space felt like a betrayal. I had to find those blueprints. The lakefront penthouse felt vast and cold. The only sound was the rush of my own breathing. He would be home any minute. Pictures of us were everywhere, galas, construction sites, our wedding day. I paused, looking at our smiles. 10:42. 7 minutes left. My hand trembled as I lifted the lid of his laptop. Genevieve's words were a whisper in my mind. The password is the name of the horse his father sold. I typed it in, and the desktop bloomed to life. This was no simple project folder. A second password prompt appeared, guarding a secure drive. A keypad materialized on screen, and my heart began to hammer. I stared shocked as the screen demanded another password. A single cursor blinked in a simple login box. I could hear the faint whir of the laptop's fan. I entered the other secret Genevieve had shared, the location of their family's lost cabin. Horrible. The drive opened, revealing a list of coded files. Encrypted, she had warned me. This was his other life. Why did a property developer need this? My instinct screamed at me to close it, but Genevieve's panicked voice felt real. My phone vibrated. 10:50. The building's security system was now active. A faint chime from the foyer confirmed the alarm was set. I was in the only room without motion sensors. Taking a slow breath, I began to scan the files. The names were all codes. I had to be quick. The screen's glare was harsh in the dark, illuminating a maze of folders. Phase 1 and Phase 2 were meaningless. Then, after frantic searching, I saw a file that made my blood freeze. Exit_strategy. I clicked it, my hand shaking, and my lungs seized. The file was a shadow ledger. It showed the tower's development costs, but the expenses were grossly inflated. It wasn't the numbers that made me feel sick. It was the sheer deception. I saw a list of shell companies based out of the Cayman Islands. This was a blueprint for defrauding his Chicago investors, not building for them. My stomach twisted. He was siphoning investor capital into those hidden accounts. The records showed hundreds of small payments disguised as subcontractor fees. Each transfer had a cryptic approval code. It was sophisticated, organized fraud. Tens of millions. I felt faint as I scrolled to the summary page. It was a perfect spreadsheet of theft. Dates, codes, destinations, and every single wire was co-signed by one person, Simone. At the top of the ledger, Arthur Vance. Total funds diverted, 87 million in 2 years. Next wire transfer, March 21st, to a ghost company. Amount, 30 million. Tomorrow. My phone shook as I began taking pictures. I photographed the ledgers, the account numbers, the fake company names, the entire damning record. My hands trembled so badly the pictures were blurry, but I couldn't stop. I needed proof before he got home. I heard it then, the quiet hum of the private elevator arriving in our foyer. Then I heard their voices, low and intimate. A wave of pure dread washed over me. I shoved the phone in my pocket and closed the file. I had to hide. His voice, so familiar it ached, cut through the silence. Arthur, I'm telling you, she's asking too many questions. Then her voice. Simone, don't be paranoid. She's 8 months pregnant and tired. She isn't a threat. I'm not taking chances, he said, his voice just outside the door. My eyes scanned the room and found the heavy blackout curtains by the window. It was my only option. I slipped behind the thick fabric, my back cold against the glass. The velvet muffled the sound as the office door swung open. I held my breath, petrified. They were in the room. I found a tiny gap to peer through, my body rigid with fear. I watched them through the opening. Their voices were sharp now, Arthur and Simone standing in his office. He stood by his desk, hands on his hips, like a king surveying his land. Simone went to his bar cart and poured a scotch, swirling the amber liquid. The desk lamp cast long, distorted shadows on their faces. I didn't move. The air behind the curtain was hot with the smell of her perfume. The phone in my pocket felt like a brick. If the floor creaked, if he so much as glanced at the window, he didn't. It's all set, Simone said, her voice rich with satisfaction. The bank is ready. 30 million tomorrow at 9, Arthur confirmed, rubbing his neck. Good. The timing is tight, but it's manageable. And our departure? Simone asked. The accounts are funded. The money will be in Dubai by noon. We'll be on a jet by 5. A knot of ice formed deep in my stomach. Dubai. This was real. Simone leaned against the desk. And Ilara? Hearing my own name from her lips felt like a slap. Arthur's face went cold. She's become a loose end. I told you she was too much like her brother. I know. Arthur's voice was sharp with irritation. I thought playing the devoted husband, with the baby on the way, would keep her blind. But she has his instincts, Simone smirked. Marcus was always too righteous for his own good. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. My brother? Ilara will never sign divorce papers that give me control, Arthur said, pacing now, which means we use the contingency plan. Simone stood up straight. Are you certain there's no one doing that? It's the only option left, he snapped. If she talks to her family's law firm, this entire operation collapses. Our partners in Dubai are not forgiving people. Maya was silent for a bit. Then, what's the plan? Arthur didn't answer. He just stared out at the Chicago skyline. On the still open laptop, a chat window popped up. A message from his sister, Genevieve. The same way as Marcus, my stomach lurched. Arthur typed a blunt reply. You know what happened? The site inspection last year. He found the fraudulent invoices, confronted me. He continued typing. He was going to the board, so I showed him the elevator shaft. A terrible malfunction. A tragic fall. His next message was a single cold emoji of a person falling. 1 minute he was arguing, the next he was gone. I felt a bile rise in my throat. The official site report called it a tragic accident, his text continued. The foreman's family got a generous bonus, no questions asked. Genevieve's reply was immediate. And you'll do the same to Ilara? Not the same, cleaner. He sent a picture of my prenatal vitamins. Saturday night at the charity gala. I'll say she's feeling faint, that she needs to lie down. I'll offer to get her water myself. A quiet moment for us. I'll switch her pills with these before we leave. In an hour, her heart will just stop. A tragic complication with the pregnancy. I'll be the devastated widower who lost his wife and unborn child. Genevieve's response was one word. Methodical. Arthur's reply? I've had a year to be. Arthur's plan was cold as steel. Her inheritance was always a complication. I simply have to accelerate the timeline. His tone was pragmatic. Once she's gone, I get it all. The penthouse, the stocks, the $10 million insurance policy, I move the money and vanish. Perhaps Rio or Miami, somewhere warm, Genevieve typed. And my role? Arthur's reply was confident. You come with me. Your share is already secure. By the time they read her will, we'll be ghosts. My vision blurred. The air was too thick to breathe. Signing off, erase this entire chat before I get there. Genevieve sent back a thumbs up. As the file began to delete itself, I frantically photographed the screen one last time. I heard his key turn in the front lock. I sat frozen in the leather chair, my heart slamming against my ribs. I counted to 100, my body locked in terror. When I was sure I heard the shower start in the master suite, I gently closed the laptop and rose on shaking legs. My legs gave way. I steadied myself on the oak credenza, my body racked with tremors. In the darkened study, my phone's glow guided me out. The hallway seemed to stretch for miles, every shadow a phantom. My breathing was shallow and sharp. I almost collapsed. I skipped our master suite, cutting through the living room to our large dressing room. Inside, I threw the bolt on the heavy door and sank to the floor, my back against the cold, lacquered wood. The phone screen was a stark light in the blackness. Liam was going to kill me. This Saturday at 10 p.m., I had less than 2 days. My fingers fumbled as I searched my contacts. Our lawyer, Mr. Davies, had insisted I keep a number, a private investigator named Sterling. The digits were seared into my brain, 312-555-0121. My thumb shook above the screen. It was nearly 2 in the morning. Who would even be working? Would they believe me? I had nowhere else to turn. Liam was capable of anything. He wanted our child and me gone. If I waited, I'd be dead before the weekend was over. I sucked in a breath and pressed the call button. It rang, and rang again. My hand quaked so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I huddled in the massive closet, lit only by its screen. Our Chicago townhouse was dead silent, but a frantic rhythm pounded in my ears. Please pick up. A third ring. Was this pointless? Then a sharp female voice broke the silence. Sterling Investigations, Zoe speaking. She sounded crisp, professional, and calm. This was a woman who navigated crisis for a living, who managed terror with poise. I tried to form words, but my throat closed up. Hello? Zoe Sterling repeated. Is someone there? I finally pushed the sentence out. My name is Maya Hayes. It came out as a cracked, faint whisper. Mr. Davies said I should call. I believe my husband plans to murder me. A brief silence. Mrs. Hayes, I've been waiting for you to get in touch. Relief washed over me so powerfully the phone slipped. She knew. It wasn't just paranoia. Mr. Davies briefed my firm weeks ago. Sterling's voice was serious, but not cold. He shared worries about your husband's financial activities. We've been monitoring Liam Hayes. We just needed a trigger to move forward. He's planned it for Saturday, I stammered, during his firm's charity gala. He's replacing my prenatal supplements. He's trying to induce a heart attack. How did I know? I explained it all. The hidden server Mr. Davies found, the password, the affair with Nina, their whole recorded plan. I also mentioned the Zurich bank accounts. I found the video files on the cloud server not an hour ago, as he and Nina were confirming the last details. Zoe Sterling was quiet, taking it all in. I heard the faint clacking of keys. When I finished, she said, Mrs. Hayes, you may have just saved your own life. The video files you mentioned, are they accessible from your phone? Yes, I have them. And the laptop is back where I found it. Perfect, leave it there. The chain of custody is critical. Can you meet me at our offices? I confirmed the address she gave me. 9 a.m. tomorrow, 1 West Wacker Drive. The address is on its way to your phone now. Bring your phone with the files. I just nodded, unable to speak. I would. Maya, you must listen to me. Her voice grew firm, commanding my focus. You will not tell anyone about this call. Not Liam, not your friends, not a single person. If Liam suspects you're aware, he'll move now. He won't wait until Saturday night. A wave of sickness twisted my gut. What do I do? Act completely normal, go to your bedroom, wake up at your usual time. If he talks to you, be cool and distant as you have been. Don't give him any cause for suspicion. What if he tries something else? I couldn't finish the thought. We'll have a surveillance team outside your home by 6 a.m. Sterling cut in. They will be discreet. You won't see them, but they'll be there. If he tries to take you anywhere or acts erratically, they are authorized to intervene. Her assurance was all I had. I held on to the promise of safety, but my brain replayed their voices discussing my end. What happens when I arrive? I asked. You'll give us a formal statement, we'll copy the evidence from your phone, and then we'll prepare everything for the authorities to get warrants for Liam and Nina. Your testimony is the key. Without you, his defense will argue the videos are fake or the server was hacked. You're the one who connects all the evidence, Maya. You make the case. The weight of it was immense. I had to be the one to ensure my husband went to prison. The same man who was conspiring with his mistress to murder me and my unborn baby. I'll be there, I whispered. Good, I will see you at 9. Sterling paused. Maya, I know this is terrifying, but you've done everything right. We will handle this, I promise. I had to believe her. There was no other option. Thank you, I managed. Now do your best to rest. We'll talk in the morning. The line went dead. I stayed in the dark, phone still clutched to my head. I finally lowered it, hugging my knees. Sterling said, act normal. How could I lie next to a man who wanted me dead? I forced myself up. I was completely drained, running on a mixture of fear and utter exhaustion. I climbed into bed fully clothed, pulling the comforter to my neck. The air felt ice cold. The only light came from the clock radio, 1:47 a.m. I watched the ceiling, every sound magnified. The building's hum, a far-off siren, the gentle hiss of the vents. Was that him? Did he know I'd found the server? Did he know I called Zoe Sterling? I closed my eyes, focusing on each breath. 6 a.m. Her people were coming. A little under 4 hours to go. I just had to make it 4 more hours. I must have dozed off because a sudden noise jolted me awake, my heart hammering. The clock showed 3:02 a.m. A sound had woken me. I lay perfectly still, listening intently. There it was again, a key sliding into the front door lock. I got out of bed and crept to the bedroom door, looking through the narrow gap into the darkened foyer. Liam was home. He moved like a ghost toward our bedroom. I scrambled back into bed, yanking the covers up and pretending to be asleep. My breathing was ragged. He shouldn't be here. He walked in, a dark shape against the city glow. He just stood there for a lifetime. I was clenching the sheets so hard my fingers ached. He didn't come to bed. He walked into the master bath. I heard the soft scrape of my medicine cabinet opening. My eyes were shut tight. He was switching the vitamins. He was doing it now. The mattress sagged as he finally got in. The man planning my murder was lying next to me. There was no chance of sleep after that. By 7 a.m., I was dressed. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone and his laptop from its hiding spot. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe he just came home to get something he forgot. But I knew it was a lie. He was starting his plan. I took the service elevator down, dodging the concierge who might tell Liam I'd left. My car was waiting in our private garage spot, still and cool. I climbed in, locked the doors, and drove into the dawn light. The 20-minute drive to the loop felt like an eternity. I kept glancing in my rearview mirror. Every dark car felt like a shadow, but no one was behind me. As I pulled into the garage near the river, my hands were frozen on the wheel. The Sterling Investigations building was an imposing tower of glass and steel, the firm's logo discreetly etched above the entrance. I walked into the sleek modern lobby. A security officer checked my name. Miss Sterling is expecting you. I paced the polished stone floor, my pulse erratic, until a private elevator arrived. The investigator was exactly as I'd pictured. Mid-40s, with a sharp haircut and intelligent eyes. She wore an impeccable gray suit, her credentials clipped to the jacket. Maya, she greeted me, her handshake firm and reassuring. I'm glad you came. I could only manage a slight nod. Zoe Sterling guided me past modern offices to a conference room at the far end of the hall. A man was already inside, his laptop open. This is David, Zoe said, closing the soundproof door. He's our head of digital forensics. David looked up and gave a small nod. He was about 40 with touches of silver at his temples and thin-framed glasses. Mrs. Hayes, he said gently, I am incredibly sorry you are in this situation. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded again and sat down. Zoe turned to me. I know this is difficult, but please tell us everything you found. Begin with the home server. And so I did. I described finding the encrypted partition on our cloud storage system. I showed them the video clips of Liam and Nina, their cold discussion of my baby being a complication. I repeated their entire plan to switch my vitamins to make me seem unstable, and the horror of hearing my husband in our bathroom last night doing exactly that. Zoe and I stared at the monitor. And here it is, Zoe murmured, pointing to a time-stamped log of a file transfer. This is absolute proof. The IP address of the offshore server was undeniable. She pulled up the access history, her expression grim. 7 connections, 3 video files, 1 forged medical document. She looked me in the eye. This gives us everything we need to expose his lies, Maya. The trips, the secret accounts, everything. I leaned forward. Zoe, you've uncovered his entire double life. But I have to do more. I'm the one who found that partition. I'm the one who heard him lie about it. My throat tightened. So what's the plan? My investigator's phone lit up the dark office. The message was from a contact he'd found, Olivia Thorne. It read, I need to speak with you about Marcus. I can't protect him. Julian's gaze met mine. That's his sister? I nodded, a cold knot forming in my stomach. His younger sister, Olivia. Does she know everything? I asked. I doubt it. We've been distant since their parents' estate was settled. Julian was already standing. Respond now. Say you can see her immediately. Where? A car is on its way. Have her wait outside her brownstone. Be brief. My hands were unsteady as I wrote, Olivia, it's Eleanor. I'm coming now. She answered in seconds. I'm at my place. Please, Eleanor, I'm so afraid. Julian was on his own device, arranging the pickup. Drive her to Beacon Hill. Bring her to the Four Seasons. Use the discreet entrance. He looked at me after the call. We need to get you both safe. If Olivia talks, we need her statement before Marcus finds out. Within the hour, I was in an impersonal luxury suite overlooking the Boston Public Garden, all polished chrome and lifeless modern art. The room felt sterile. The city lights twinkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows. 2 of Julian's men were posted outside. Olivia was brought up from a waiting town car. She looked utterly defeated when she entered. Her face was ashen and her eyes were swollen from crying. Dressed in a simple knit sweater and jeans, she seemed small and lost. Eleanor, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I remained silent, unsure what to say. Julian gestured to a chair. Miss Thorne, please sit down. Olivia sank into the chair across from me, her hands twisting in her lap. The tension was suffocating. Then she broke. I knew about the gallery he financed for her, she confessed. Her voice strained. Over $200,000. He had me form the LLC back in 2021. It got flagged by the bank last year. Tears streamed down her face. He threatened me, said he'd destroy my career if I told anyone. I had no choice, it was our family's secret shame. He told me I'd be disowned. She stared at me, her eyes pleading. He even made me befriend her. For over a year, I had to report on what she liked, what she did, who she saw. He was desperate to keep his 2 worlds from ever touching. I never wanted to be involved, Eleanor. I swear, I was petrified. Julian leaned in. Last night. Did Marcus contact you? Olivia nodded, dabbing at her eyes. He called around 11 p.m., he said. The charity gala is tomorrow, 7 o'clock. You will be happy for us, or I will ruin you right alongside her. She looked at me, her voice shaking. I knew what he planned to do. He was going to announce the divorce, and he'd ensure my professional ruin if I objected. The suite was silent except for Olivia's muffled sobs. Julian spoke calmly. Miss Thorne, you've admitted to complicity in significant financial fraud and coercion. There are legal ramifications. Olivia's face lost all color. However, Julian continued, if you provide a sworn statement, testify for Eleanor, and cooperate fully, we can arrange for your protection. 6 years of his control, freedom from family expectations after 4, Julian said, and you'll help put a stop to a predator. That has to count for something. Olivia turned to me. Eleanor, I am so sorry. I'm not asking for you to forgive me. But I had to tell you, I couldn't let him get away with this. I said nothing, my mind reeling. One part of me wanted to scream at her for her role in his deception, but another part saw she was telling the truth. She was trapped by him in a different kind of prison, but just as captive as I was. Julian placed a folder on the table. This is the statement, review it, sign it, then we collect his encrypted drives from the studio. Olivia reached for the pen with a trembling hand and signed her name. The air was thick with the stench of betrayal. Julian and his associate stood by the door. It was 11:40 a.m. on March 12th, and we were on our way to secure the proof that would tear down my husband's empire. Olivia seemed drained. She had deep shadows under her eyes, and her hands shook as she put her glass down. I had spent the morning processing everything: Marcus's scheme to get rid of me, Olivia's confession, the hidden life he'd built, and my own sister-in-law caught in his web of intimidation. "Are you ready?" Julian asked her gently. She nodded and rose. "Yes, let's finish this." We traveled in separate vehicles. Julian's driver took us in a blacked-out SUV, with another car trailing us. Our Back Bay penthouse was less than 10 minutes away, but the drive felt endless. The perfectly manicured street seemed unreal. The historic brick building was a lie, and the private garden felt like a cage. My own sister Chloe let us in with her key. The apartment was pristine and empty: abstract paintings, minimalist furniture, and a large display on the marble island. It was a showroom, a stage for a flawless marriage that had never been real. "The backups are in his study," Chloe whispered, guiding us up the steel and glass staircase. The study had a sleek obsidian desk and a titanium biometric safe. Chloe entered the sequence, her fingers hesitating as she sorted through the files inside. "Here," she breathed, passing a heavy external drive to Julian. "This is all of it." Julian set the drive on the desk and connected it. His tech expert initiated a forensic clone of the data. The first document was a personal loan agreement from May 5th, 2020. Chloe's signature was directly under my husband Daniel's. $400,000. I looked at the paper, a cold dread washing over me. Daniel had made her the sole guarantor for a loan to fund one of his side ventures. "Why would you sign this?" I asked, my voice tight. Chloe looked away. "I needed the funding for my design studio. I trusted his business plan, but when the market tanked in 2021, I lost everything. I was wiped out in 9 months." Julian opened another file, a ledger of payments from Chloe's own records. She had paid back $90,000 over 3 years. The remaining balance was $310,000. "That's an impossible debt to carry," the text said. "I know," Chloe whispered. "I tried, but Dan just kept adding fees and compounding interest. I could never get ahead." The next folder made my blood run cold. A directory labeled audio with 60 recordings from Daniel's phone spanning from August 2021 to October 2024. Julian played the first one. "Chloe, you are 2 months late. Get me the money by December or I'll tell Mom and Dad you gambled away their retirement fund. You lied to them about your studio. It was a complete fraud. They'll disown you. Don't test me, Chloe." My hands shook as Julian clicked on the next file, and then the next. They were all the same: cruel threats, impossible demands, and promises to have the family shun her if she didn't pay. Some were delivered calmly, others detailed his plans to make her an outcast. "He held this over you for years," I breathed. Chloe finally met my gaze, her eyes brimming with shame. "I had no way out, Eleanor. I couldn't tell them the truth. I thought if I just kept paying, he would eventually let me go. But he just wanted more and more power over me." The associate completed the transfer and disconnected his equipment. "It's textbook," he said to Julian. "Financial coercion, emotional blackmail, psychological torture." He leveraged her failure to control her. Julian nodded, his jaw tight. "Chloe, you were his victim, but you were also his accomplice. You knew things, but your silence allowed his poison to spread." The attorney's words were a cold comfort. "The court will acknowledge your current cooperation. This statement is a strong start." Olivia wiped at her tears. "I know I should have said something sooner. I was trapped." Miss Vance pushed a document across the conference table. The affidavit Olivia had just given. She placed it in front of her. "This verifies your testimony against Marcus. In exchange, this firm will shield you from any legal blowback. Is that clear?" "Yes," Olivia whispered. Sign here. Olivia picked up the pen, and her signature was finally firm. I stared at the credit card statement, my stomach tightening. We were so excited about our first child, but one charge seemed wrong: a monthly payment for a lease on a private art studio in a part of Boston I'd never been to. What is this for? I wondered aloud. The question hung in the air as he walked in. Marcus looked over my shoulder. It's a corporate art investment, Eleanor, just a diversification. I get that, I replied, but it's a significant expense. I should at least know the details. His face hardened and he gave a slow shake of his head. You don't need to worry about it. It is taken care of. He finished his call and gave me a perfunctory kiss. I'm heading out for the day. Let's not talk about this again. After the front door clicked shut, I looked back at the statement. I wanted to trust him, but my gut screamed that he was lying. I couldn't let the feeling go. I sat at my laptop just after 2 o'clock, my mind racing. The secret studio, his defensive tone, it felt like a carefully constructed lie. I opened the browser and searched for the address in the state's corporate registry. Oh no, I whispered to the empty apartment. The property was leased to an obscure LLC. The listed manager was Olivia Thorne, my own sister-in-law. Her name felt like a physical blow. Olivia had joined my husband's investment firm in 2022. I always saw her as a driven young woman just starting out. I was the one who recommended her for the internship, who took her out to celebrate her full-time offer. Or so I had thought. I pulled up her private profile. A new photo showed my cousin Chloe in a chic Seattle penthouse, smiling smugly. Behind her was the exact sculpture from Liam's insurance policy. The caption read, "Loving my new place. So happy to finally be home." My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it, my voice trembling. What is going on? I put a hand on my stomach. I have to see it for myself. Our baby's future is what matters. I grabbed my keys from the hook. I took a slow, calming breath. Last autumn in 2024, Chloe supposedly moved into a Belltown penthouse. The address from her geotagged post on October 1st matched. My phone held everything I needed. I stared at my phone in the driver's seat, then turned the key. I made a quiet vow: 60% of my strength for my child, 40% for unraveling this betrayal. The Gallery District. We used to love this area. My mind flashed back. Wait, Chloe, isn't that... The words caught in my throat. That isn't the story he told me. The truth started to surface, I know. The narrative I had accepted was a lie. My hands clenched the wheel. My husband was padding his ego, not securing our family, I realized. Chloe was just his partner in crime. He needed to feel important, to soothe his own fragile sense of self. Bitter tears welled in my eyes. I pictured Chloe's fake concern and constant grin. She was a snake, not a cousin, and my husband had rewarded her for it, right under my nose. So what really happened? I murmured to the quiet car. I opened her profile again. This was posted in 2024. It's a boastful photo, but someone important is missing. My husband is not in the picture. The credit is all for Chloe Hayes. I zoomed in on the sculpture and saw their reflections in the polished metal, standing side by side. The date was still the same. The reflection was the truth. The post was a lie. Who did this? I whispered. Chloe Hayes, I answered myself. She posted it right after our anniversary dinner. I went home early, not feeling well, and she had stayed, playing the role of the dutiful cousin. I'd trusted her completely. I leaned my head back, my grip tight on the wheel. Why was the penthouse so important to hide? I asked out loud. It was simple. When a man like Liam begins an affair as his company prepares to go public, he has to hide all the evidence. That means financial and physical distance. If Liam had been honest in 2024, the affair would have come out immediately. Of course, so Chloe covered for him. Exactly. By putting her name on the holding company, Chloe let him carry the guilt, while she scrubbed his public involvement. No financial records, no awkward questions. The affair could continue in secret. I entered the address into my phone. And then Liam just continues the charade. Not quite, I said. It was much worse. Liam deliberately manipulated me, making me question my own mind. It is a gut feeling that women are born with. If I had ignored it, he would have gotten away with it. He'd have hidden a 2-year affair, and the deceit would have found a new form. They both would have won, while I unknowingly raised our child with funds he had stolen. But I would never do that, I said softly. I refused to be a part of it. My own face stared back from the navigation screen. That is when I made another choice: expose him, use his downfall as my strength, and let it all collapse. It's neater. No fighting, no uncertainty. I parked the car and looked at the law firm building. So, the hidden sculpture was not just to cover his affair, it was to strip me of any leverage. So Liam could either gaslight me or destroy my name and take our assets. Precisely, I said. I felt nauseous. Everything I believed about our marriage and our future was a complete fraud. Chloe Hayes had helped him embezzle from his own tech company. She had redirected money meant for us, and she did it to protect Liam and his secret world. What is next? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I looked at the building again. I am filing for divorce. My lawyers will initiate a complete forensic audit of his corporation. That is how we will officially link them and show Liam funded her entire life. The evidence is solid. I nodded. I'm sending the authenticated insurance policy, along with the certified screenshots from Chloe's social media. I have already consulted my family's legal counsel. They are prepared. Thank you, I whispered, the words feeling inadequate. My face hardened. My father saw you as brilliant, Liam. He truly wanted you to succeed. I am so sorry for this. I should have recognized the red flags. The phone screen went black. I sat in the stillness, looking out the window, a hand on my belly. We will see this through, I promised. I nodded but felt paralyzed. I could only picture my husband in that penthouse 5 years from now, buying a gift for another mistress, and how Liam, the man I adored, had orchestrated this whole betrayal. I finally pushed the car door open. I used the hidden key from inside his old business textbook. I am ready to bring it all into the open tomorrow. He had begged me, please don't. It was time to act. I stood, my body shaking. My entire life was unraveling, and I wasn't sure it could be fixed. The Seattle storage unit smelled musty and damp. I got there at 3 p.m., and the manager, Dave, met me. He was a tall man with tired eyes that looked like they had seen it all. Mrs. Sterling, he greeted me. The unit's all set. Right this way. We walked through long fluorescent lit halls to a large roll-up door. Inside, a single hanging bulb lit up stacks of server boxes, the proof of their conspiracy. I never knew this side of my husband, a man with a baby on the way. He had methodically deceived his investors. I took a breath and pointed to one box. They became different people on October 5th, 2024. He said it was a corporate retreat. He lied. I pointed out 2 large fund movements in the documents. These were clearly an internal plot. See the routing, both from company R and D funds with no board signature. If he were just shifting assets, the transfers would be external and easy to trace. The financial analyst was direct. 2 clear examples of fraudulent transfers, plus a suspicious lack of security alerts on that account. His partners were kept in the dark. Her voice was professional, but her eyes were sharp. This was a calculated financial assault, Mr. Davies, not a poor decision. She slid a large binder toward him. Davies took the binder and we left. His colleague Miller was waiting by their car. Peterson is at the office. He has something important for you. A knot of fear tightened in my chest. Peterson, an early partner and mentor, had left me a cryptic voicemail last week, then disappeared. 20 minutes later, we were in a quiet conference room. Davies gestured for me to take a seat. Peterson was there, his hands clenched. He looked exhausted, his face lined with grief, his eyes swollen from stress. When he saw me, he shot up so fast his chair fell over. He dropped to his knees. What is this? I breathed, looking at the tablet in Peterson's hands. A recovered email chain. I read the first line, my own hands starting to shake. Liam's words, confident and familiar, filled the screen, but their meaning was a horror. The penthouse view is perfect, he had written to Chloe. Total privacy. Her sharp, excited reply appeared below. The shell company is ready, she wrote. A quiet transfer is so easy to arrange this quarter, darling, especially while she's preoccupied. My stomach dropped. Their exchange was all business. They mentioned the $2 million art insurance policy. They talked about how funneling the funds now would free up capital before the IPO. They discussed their scheme like a corporate merger. She's getting curious, Liam wrote flatly, asking too many questions about the finances. Chloe's response was chilling. Don't you worry, I can handle my cousin. She trusts me. The thread ended. The room was silent. My thoughts spun. His recent vagueness about our finances, the way he brushed off my questions about the company's valuation, it was all a cover. The man I loved, my baby's father, was stealing from his own company for her. He had built our entire life on a mountain of lies. Liam, the tech genius, the pride of Seattle's business community. He told the world I was his foundation, but I was just another liability he had to manage. For a second, I thought of going to the authorities, but Liam had influence everywhere. His lawyers would bury the story before I could even file a report. They would say I was an unstable, hormonal wife. I needed more than just a few emails. I needed irrefutable evidence. I went through my phone and found the number for a law firm my father had always respected. Harrison and Stern, corporate litigators. I explained what I had, my voice steady now. They were precise, professional, and had a team waiting for me. You're certain about the timeline? Mr. Harrison asked, his expression serious. I nodded, holding a glass of water. Then this is where we begin. First, we secure everything you have. That afternoon, we sat in a conference room overlooking the city, a place where fortunes were decided. He's meeting investors, I said, my voice cold. He told me it was a critical pre-IPO dinner. Another lie. Mark adjusted the decryption key on his monitor. Let's see what our tech mogul is hiding tonight. He gestured to the screen, and here we go. Ethan's silver Tesla slid into a private garage. He emerged, the picture of Silicon Valley power, in a casual but expensive jacket. A moment later, Amelia joined him. She was sharp, poised, everything I felt I wasn't anymore. He didn't just greet her, he pulled her close, a hand sliding to her waist with a familiarity that made my blood run cold. It was how he held me in our wedding photos. We watched a live feed from a compromised camera. Mark brought up their encrypted messages, and their words scrolled across the screen. Everything is ready for this weekend, Ethan had typed. The vintage convertible's brake line has been discreetly weakened. It will fail on the coastal highway. And the 911 call, Amelia had replied. No service on that stretch of road? It's a tragic accident, he responded, his words clinical. My husband, the father of my unborn child, the man who was beta testing my death. Chloe is clueless, he continued, his tone dripping with disdain. She's too busy planning a baby shower to notice anything. A burning rage washed over my shock. He was using our child, our life together, as a smokescreen for murder. The sickness was rising in my throat. They discussed my life as a business liability to be removed. Mark's voice was grim. We've got him. This is conspiracy. It's more than enough to act. But I saw the ambition in Amelia's eyes on the video feed. This isn't just about the affair, is it? I asked. He was already opening new windows on his screen. 1 second, he said, a complex flowchart of crypto wallets appeared, connecting Ethan's startup to an anonymous account registered to Amelia. They have been siphoning investor money for months, Mark explained, stealing from the company's seed funding. As an initial backer, you were the biggest liability. You would have noticed the discrepancies eventually. This was the real motive. I wasn't just a wife he was done with, I was a threat to his scheme. The $5 million life insurance policy was just a perk. The main prize was removing me so they could continue their heist. My own husband planned to kill me to protect his tech fraud with his mistress. The room began to spin. Her jealousy is a dangerous accelerant, Mark said quietly. She doesn't just want Ethan, She wants your status, your home, your entire life. I stared at the screen, at the woman who was plotting to methodically erase me. After this weekend we start over, I read from Amelia's message. The insurance payout settles his debts, we liquidate your shares, and we're gone. We will be in a Zurich penthouse by the new year, Ethan laughed in his reply. To a new beginning. A beginning built on my end, I whispered, the words tasting like poison. I pictured them toasting their future, a future that required me to be a memory. The cruelty of it was bottomless. I looked at Mark, my hands clenched into fists. This was never just about cheating. This was about a woman trying to steal my very existence. It was about a man who would orphan his own child for a clean getaway. Mark just nodded. This guy is a monster. Through the message thread, I saw Amelia type, I love you, Ethan. He replied instantly, I love you more. The lie was so effortless, so rehearsed. It was a script for their private, twisted play. After this weekend, no more complications, Ethan wrote. Mark closed the message window. The silence in the home office was suffocating. He turned to me, his gaze serious. What do you want to do, Chloe? The terrified woman from an hour ago was already gone. Amelia is not just his lover, Mark confirmed. She's the architect of the whole financial scam. She's been manipulating the company's code base since she was his lead developer. This entire plot has her digital fingerprints all over it. He showed me her background file, a history of corporate sabotage. How much is he paying her for this? I whispered. Mark highlighted a single transaction. He transferred $500,000 in crypto to her wallet last week. A finder's fee for my permanent removal. My heart pounded against my ribs. Does she know about the baby? I asked, the words catching in my throat. Mark shook his head. I don't think so. To Ethan, you and the baby are just one problem to be solved. To Amelia, you're the final obstacle to be eliminated. His love, our marriage, all of it was just a long con. Mark closed his laptop. The plan is here. The proof is irrefutable. We can call the police right now. I took a deep breath, imagining Ethan walking in the door, playing the loving husband. I had to see this through. Keep monitoring them, I told Mark. I want to know every move. In a few hours, Ethan would come home, kiss me, and ask about my day, thinking his dark secret was safe. But it wasn't. I had the server logs. I had everything. So what is the play? Mark asked. I leaned back in the chair, a cold sense of purpose washing over me. We spring his own trap on him. He thinks he's taking his pregnant wife for a scenic drive down the coast. He has no idea I'll be waiting. And when he makes his play, we end this. Mark almost smiled. He won't have a clue. I nodded slowly, my heart beating a steady rhythm. By Sunday, this nightmare would be finished. But first, we needed to expose the full depth of his partnership with Amelia, my husband's sleek San Francisco office, once a symbol of his genius, now felt like a mausoleum of lies. It was nearly 10, the condo silent, but my brother Mark was dissecting lines of code, his eyes scanning the screen. He cross-referenced server archives, deleted emails, and old version histories. Here, Mark said, tapping the monitor. Ethan Hayes? Let's peel back the layers. A directory of stolen files appeared, a timeline of corporate espionage. Mark highlighted a folder in red. A stolen algorithm from a failed startup, he explained. Acquired in April 2019. The same month, Innovate AI went bankrupt. It was the core of Ethan's company. An old photo showed Ethan smiling with Amelia at a conference. That stolen code was their ticket to the top. Precisely. And it wasn't just the theft. Look at these dozens of small crypto payments between 2019 and 2020. Tiny transfers, 1,000 here, 2,000 there, to an anonymous hacker. The total comes to over $100,000. I stared at the records, a chill spreading through me. Ethan had been paying for his crime for years. Each transfer was another stone in the foundation of his deceit. It gets worse, Mark said, opening another encrypted file. A second set of expenses for a tech summit in Kyoto from August 2023 for $80,000. A summit he never attended. I crossed my arms. A work trip or a vacation? A vacation. Mark confirmed the flight booking was for 2 people. He was sloppy, Mark noted, but I found the confirmation. Booked through the company portal, but paid from Ethan's hidden account. I just watched the fog blanket the city. Ethan wasn't just a cheat. He used his company to finance his affair for years. Why risk it? I asked. He's a major player in the valley. Why gamble an empire for an affair? Mark pulled up an old tech journal article. Headline: Promising AI startup collapses amidst smear campaign. David Chen, its 32-year-old founder. His company was destroyed in May 2019 by fabricated rumors. The photo showed a brilliant man with haunted eyes. He had the same passionate spark my husband once faked. Ethan's biggest rival, I whispered. Mark scrolled. Chen was about to secure a new round of funding. He would have crushed Ethan. But then anonymous sources leaked false data about his personal life. He found another article about Chen's funding drying up from May 10, 2019. The evidence against Chen was a ghost, Mark said. No source, no digital trail. Without proof of the lie, he couldn't fight it. The narrative stuck. David Chen was finished. No company, no career, just professional ruin. A heavy sense of injustice filled the room. Ethan leaked the false data. He had to have. Mark explained he likely framed the young CEO with lies he manufactured, and Ethan got the market all to himself. Mark closed the browser and sat back. When Aether Core launched that June, Ethan was crowned the new king of AI. He passed the stolen code off as his own innovation within weeks. Nobody looked too closely. He raised his first 50 million before anyone could ask the right questions. Ethan's face would twist in rage if he knew we saw this. He is my husband. He built his entire career on a lie. And his mistress, I asked. Amelia, did she know? Mark opened the file. Amelia Vance, hired in January 2019. Then came server logs and encrypted chat histories. Hard to say definitively, Mark said. Their project files are a mess. Amelia runs her own team, but Ethan approves the budgets. He signed off on a $200,000 retention bonus for her in October 2023. The reasoning was vague. I scowled. A bonus or hush money? Probably both, Mark said. But here's what we know. Amelia helped Ethan integrate the stolen code in 2019 to launch Aether Core. She's been Ethan's secret for at least 2 years, and her boss, my husband, destroyed an innocent man's life and built an empire on the rubble. They were both rotten to the core. I sank into Ethan's chair, my head spinning. Ethan, Amelia, David Chen. It was a conspiracy of greed and ambition, and our home was its headquarters. My husband's tech empire, a company he sold as a story of hard work, was founded on a crime. What about David Chen? I asked. Is he okay? My brother shook his head. Not really. He teaches coding to kids in Oakland. His career was completely destroyed at 32. He's oblivious to who truly planned his downfall. I watched the fog roll over the bay, shrouding the tech campus Richard built. He sold his soul for power. I get ambition, but not his brand of cruelty. He destroyed an innocent man and deceived me. His entire life is a fraud. So what's the plan? I asked. My sister's expression hardened. We expose him tonight. At the Innovators Charity Gala. Richard expects an award. Instead, we'll be waiting. We have every encrypted file, every fraudulent patent. When he takes the stage, we expose everything. And Chloe, my sister added, standing up, we're leaking an anonymous data packet to her firm's board members. It's a complete implosion of his world. We let Richard savor his supposed victory. He'll come home to you, thinking his empire is secure, and then it all turns to ash. A public takedown, digital proof with no way out. You're the one facing him, Elena, my sister said. Are you ready? I thought of Mr. Chen, his life's work stolen. I thought of our marriage, a carefully crafted lie. I thought of Chloe in my husband's arms. I thought of my sister, who always said your code of ethics is everything, a lesson Richard ignored. Yes, I said, I am. My sister nodded. Good. One last review. We map out the confrontation. We plan for every contingency. We get one chance at this. We can't let him charm his way free. Maya gave a grim smile. This will be one gala he wishes he'd skipped. I stood, my body trembling. Tonight, at his event, it all ends. Richard will try to lie, and I'll be there to stop him. I just hoped I was strong enough to burn his kingdom down. The living room of our San Francisco condo felt vast and sterile, lit by gallery lights. A single white couch faced the windows, a perfect, untouched centerpiece. At the kitchen island stood my sister Maya, her face like granite. I sat on a stool, my phone mirroring a web of shell corporations onto the wall's large screen. My sister stood beside me. The stark lighting aged her, her hand shaking as she held her tea. She was the one who found it all, who spent months cracking his encrypted servers. Now she was here, helping me hold my husband accountable. Listen, I said, my voice sharp. We have one shot. If we miss, Richard gets away with it. He keeps the company, the fortune, and the lies prevail. I won't let that happen. I know, Maya replied, her tone resolute. I gestured to the screen. Our entire life, the center of his deception. At 8 p.m. tonight, Richard Thorne will enter that ballroom. He expects me to applaud his award. He feels invincible, but he doesn't know we're about to light the fuse. My sister Maya pointed to the ballroom schematic. The recording device is the brooch on your gown, she explained. It gives us a clean audio feed. We'll hear everything. You'll also have this. She showed me a pre-written text. That's your go signal. Send it, and my data leak goes public in 10 seconds. My other sister spoke up. What if he notices, sees the brooch? Maya looked at me. Plausible deniability. Say you're recording his speech for the baby. His ego is big enough to buy it. And if he refuses? I asked, my voice thin. You walk, Maya said evenly. We release the data anyway, but a confession is the goal. We need Richard talking about the stolen patents, about destroying the Chen family, about his plans for you. His own words will bury him. Maya switched the display, showing her digital attack plan. Social media blasts were scheduled. The tech journals are on alert. Our lawyers are ready. The second we go live, this story will be everywhere. The other news outlets will have the data packets moments later. My team and I will be at a table near the main stage. What about me? I asked. Maya turned to me. You're the catalyst. You get him to the table, away from the crowds. No deviations. I understand, I said, my jaw tight. Maya faced me again. Elena, your job is to get him talking. Ask about Chloe. Ask about the laundered money. Make him think you're defeated, pregnant, and desperate to secure your child's future. The more he boasts, the deeper he digs his own grave. What if he brings a Chloe to our table? I asked, my hands trembling. Or his lawyer? We have eyes on both, Maya assured me. Chloe is seated with the sponsors. The lawyer is in Tokyo. We've confirmed their locations. If anything changes, we'll know immediately. She glanced at her watch. It's 6 o'clock. Elena, it's time to call Richard. Make him believe you're coming to the gala for him. The phone felt like a lead weight in my hand, my heart pounding. Maya pushed a list of talking points toward me. It's not a script, she said. Just hit these themes. You're overwhelmed. You regret fighting him. You just want your family intact. Richard needs to think you've surrendered. I took a deep breath and dialed. He picked up instantly. Elena. That smooth, rehearsed concern. Sweetheart, what is it? I let my voice tremble. Richard, I give up. You win. I'm through fighting. This arguing is bad for our child. There was a brief silence. I could feel his satisfied smile through the phone. What are you saying, darling? I'm saying I'll sign. Let's meet at the charity event tonight. We can finalize it there. A longer pause. Are you sure? I imagined him standing next to her, Chloe resting a hand on her back. I'm sure I just need this to be over. Okay, Richard said, his voice layered with fake sympathy. That's my girl. I'll have my lawyer meet us. You're doing the smart thing. I know, I lied. I'll see you there. I love you, Elena. I ended the call. I hung up. My sister Maya watched me from her array of monitors. She offered a slow, deliberate nod. That was perfect, she confirmed. He fell for it completely. I set my phone down, my hands still shaking. She wrapped me in a hug. You were incredible, she murmured. You're far stronger than you know. Maya returned to her screens. Right. That buys us 2 hours. I'm doing a final check on the audio stream and the data stream intercept. Tonight we unravel Richard Thorne's whole world. It's time to move. Her concentration was absolute. This is happening. We can still call it off. No, I said, my voice firm. He's not escaping this, not again. Maya held my gaze, then gave a single nod. All right, just remember to breathe. It's going to be a stressful night. I rose to my feet, feeling unstable. When this is over, she said gently, I'm taking you and my future niece somewhere calm and private. You're finally going to have the life you should have had. Tears welled in my eyes. Across San Francisco, Richard was probably celebrating with Chloe. He believed he had won. He was mistaken. Tonight, his meticulously built universe would implode for everyone to see. Before I walk into that ballroom to confront the man who broke me, type the word strong if you believe I can see this through. I could use the support. A quick warning, some of what follows has been dramatized for the narrative. If you need a moment, please take one. I entered the opulent ballroom at 8 in the evening. My heart hammered against my ribs. The tiny camera in my gemstone brooch was active, and the panic switch in my purse felt icy. Outside, Maya was in a nondescript broadcast van, hearing my every breath, watching multiple camera feeds. I activated the microphone. The huge ballroom was filled with Silicon Valley's finest. Gleaming fixtures, polished stone, and a stunning view of the city. I waited near the main staircase, projecting an image of calm. At 8:05, the doors swung open. A trio walked in. Richard led the way, looking polished and arrogant in his custom suit. His attorney followed, a man with a perpetually anxious expression, and on Richard's arm was Chloe. Her face was a mask of pure smug triumph. Elena, Richard purred, his voice a public display of warmth. I'm so pleased you came to your senses. I remained silent as they approached. The revised agreement, the lawyer said, setting a folder on a nearby table. Just a few signatures are required. He offered the document and a pen to me. I reached for it, my hand unsteady. I glanced at the cover, then set the pen down. We have one final item to review, Richard, I said, my voice level. I pushed the folder back toward him. His smile faltered. And what might that be? I locked eyes with him. Let's discuss Project Nightingale. The air in our private corner grew cold. Richard's face became a mask of stone. Chloe's smirk disappeared. His lawyer, Mr. Ames, cut in. This isn't the place, just sign. My gaze stayed on Richard. I know about the offshore accounts, the $50 million. I know about the Cayman Islands transfers and the email suggesting I have an unfortunate accident once the baby arrives. Richard's facade crumbled. He reached for his briefcase on a chair. You were always too damn smart, Elena, he hissed, his voice filled with venom. I retreated a step, my thumb hovering over the panic switch. But before I could activate it, the doors to the main hall were flung open. We all turned. My sister Maya stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 security officers. It's over, Richard, Maya declared, her voice echoing with finality. Richard gaped, confused. Maya, the programmer? I told you I would always protect her, Maya said, looking at me with fierce loyalty. Richard was frozen, his hand on his briefcase, his gaze darting between us. What the hell is this, Marcus? The counsel sputtered, pulling back. Shut up, you fool, Marcus hissed. Simone clutched her briefcase, but a security agent's stare froze her. The room was silent but for my own racing heart. Then chaos erupted. But it wasn't the police. On the boardroom's massive presentation screen, an investor gasped, What am I seeing? It was a web of shell corporations and hidden accounts. Marcus Vance's picture was next to the damning evidence for everyone to see. Liam's voice crackled through a hidden earpiece, cutting through the chaos. Marcus's hand went limp on his portfolio. He saw the stunned expressions of his key partners through the glass wall. He let it fall. The security lead spoke into his radio. Vance is secured. Marcus collapsed into his leather chair, his face a storm of rage and disbelief. Simone sank to the floor beside him, her hand covering a choked sob. The lawyer was a statue of shock. Our own security team filed into the room, their movements calm and deliberate. An agent spoke to the lawyer while another read Marcus his rights. Marcus Vance, you're being detained for securities fraud and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Marcus's expression was granite. He turned to glare at me, his eyes promising a payback he could no longer deliver. Simone started babbling. It was all him. I had no idea. Let's go, miss, an agent said flatly, taking her arm. Their counsel was led out without a single word. My brother Liam rushed to my side, his tactical focus softening. Amelia, are you okay? I just nodded, my knees about to buckle. It's over, he whispered, his voice thick with relief. He's done. He can't hurt you anymore. All the pressure left me in a rush, and I sagged against him, crying from the sheer weight of it all. Liam held me steady. It's really over, he repeated. I heard the elevator ding, carrying Marcus and Simone and my old life away forever. The building's security chief, a stern man named Peterson, approached. Ma'am, the authorities are en route. They'll need your side of the story. You and your brother did something amazing. I wiped my eyes. The files? Was it enough? It's a digital smoking gun, Peterson said. Simone is already cooperating. Peterson glanced at my brother. His server's encryption was military grade. Liam just shrugged. Mine's better. He pointed to a tablet an agent was holding. That's a live mirror of his entire shadow ledger. Liam's expression was hard. It's all right there. Every fake wire, every offshore entity. There's no way to deny it. Peterson nodded, looking from the tablet back to me. We have everything. My concern now is getting you home safely. Through the office window, I saw them escorting Marcus out a side entrance to an unmarked car. Even from 40 floors up, I could feel his fury. An agent shut the door, and the world I once inhabited officially vanished. Simone was placed in a separate vehicle, her protests muffled by the glass. The lawyer went into a third, his head down. I watched the cars merge with Boston's nighttime traffic. Liam came to my side. Peterson was downstairs coordinating with the federal agents. There was no big showdown, just a stunned silence from the adjacent conference room. The truth that the nightmare was over landed slowly, like a quiet sunrise. The venture capital fund Marcus built was a house of cards, and it had just collapsed. It feels so quiet, I said, the sudden stillness in the lavish office feeling strange. They should be frantic. Liam put an arm around my shoulders. The most effective coups are often the quietest, he said. An agent was methodically tagging evidence on Marcus's desk. The only sound was a faint siren growing closer. Liam led me toward a couch. My hands were trembling, so he took them in his. It's okay to let go now, Amelia, he said gently. I nodded, the Boston skyline blurring through tears. I couldn't stop shaking. Liam signaled a medic. Can she get some water, please? The man acknowledged and spoke into his comms. The curated instrumental music from the lobby had been cut, leaving a deep, unnerving silence. The identity I'd built in this city, the charity events, the magazine features, felt like it belonged to a stranger. The power, the money, the flawless public marriage. It was all constructed on a bedrock of deceit, and now it was gone. So what's next? I asked my brother, my voice thin. Now, he replied with conviction, you and your baby get to start over, somewhere far from all this. He gestured at the opulent prison that had been my home. Agent Peterson returned holding a bottle of water. Simone is singing like a canary. She's detailing every investor in the wire fraud scheme. Marcus Vance is going to be in a federal prison for a very, very long time. Good, I said, taking a sip. The solid feel of the cold bottle grounded me. No last-minute escape, no desperate cover-up, just the methodical, unstoppable gears of justice finally turning. Far below, the final unmarked sedan drove off, its taillights dissolving into the city. The strobing blue and red lights were gone. The operation was complete. I took a deep breath, the first easy one in years. Liam helped me to my feet. I felt a tiny flutter in my belly, a small kick reminding me of the future. I looked at Liam. Can we leave now? I asked. I wasn't referring to the condo, I meant his quiet, safe apartment across the river. He smiled. Yeah, Amelia, let's go home. Peterson saw us heading for the elevator. We will need a formal statement tomorrow, Mrs. Vance. It's just Amelia, I replied without looking back. My brother has my number. The agent simply nodded. Get some rest. We rode the private elevator down in silence. The sharp night air hit me like I was stepping into a new world. We walked past the empty reception desk and out toward the simple, quiet life that was waiting for me. Our vehicle was waiting, followed by our legal team in an identical SUV. Above, a jet's lights blinked on its approach to Logan. Liam's phone vibrated. The forensic team is set. 2 minutes away. They are ready to image the primary server. Copy that, Liam replied. Ensure he has no remote access to wipe the drives. I watched the city blur past my window. Our entire life was built on his crimes. My future was a lie. We hadn't secured it all yet. If we were too slow, he could erase everything. My brother Liam squeezed my hand. We're going to bury him, he promised. I nodded. We have to. Our lawyer spoke from the passenger seat. The emergency shareholders meeting is at 10 a.m. We're seizing control of the board. We expose Marcus, document the fraud, and dismantle his network. Up ahead, the glass skyscrapers of the financial district touched the clouds. On the 50th floor, my husband Marcus Vance was waiting. Our small group entered the lobby at 9:45. Our footsteps were sharp on the marble floor. We were a quiet force, moving between huge pillars. The air was thick with the scent of power and ambition. Outside, building cranes moved against the sky, their blinking lights like lonely heartbeats. Our lead attorney guided us, his face set. His paralegal watched the data stream on a tablet. I stayed by Liam, clutching my purse. The main conference room is the objective, Mr. Peterson said. I could see the glass enclosure and two figures inside. One was my husband, Marcus. The other was his lead analyst and his mistress, Simone. Simone looked impeccable and sharp even through the glass. She was surrounded by three of the firm's senior partners, like a monarch with her court. Peterson had us wait outside the door as our people moved into position, sealing off the exits. A dozen members of our team filed in and took their seats, creating a silent wall of opposition. Peterson spoke quietly into his phone. IT has confirmed. The servers are isolated, nothing can be deleted remotely. He nodded. Our accountants are inside. Simone's assistant was holding a small hard drive, a data wiper. My stomach dropped. Is that what I think it is? I asked quietly. An evidence scrubber, Peterson confirmed. One push, and every legal record is gone. He took a breath and walked in. My brother Liam and I watched as Peterson approached the head of the conference table. He spoke clearly. Marcus Vance, this meeting is a formal advisory of legal action. We have a court order. Please step away from all electronic devices. Simone's eyes darted to her legal team, then to the tablet in front of her. Three of our tech specialists watched her every move. She glanced at the door, now flanked by two of our agents. The room was utterly still. Then Simone offered a tight, condescending smile. She pushed her laptop away and held up her hands in a mocking gesture of compliance. I'm prepared to cooperate fully, she said, her voice dripping with venom. But her associate, a man named Leo, kept his hand on the wipe drive. He clutched the device, his thumb hovering over the activation button. Simone, you can't, Leo pleaded. It's over, Leo, she said without emotion. No, he yelled, reaching to connect it. A single sharp command cut him off. Stop! Leo froze. The drive slipped from his fingers, hitting the mahogany table with a loud clack. Leo cursed, yanking his hand away. It confirms, Peterson said into his comms, all local ports are locked down. That drive is useless. Our attorney stepped forward. Simone didn't bother to protest. She watched with cold detachment as they served her with a subpoena. Her legal advisors instantly went into a frantic, hushed conversation. In moments, they were totally outmaneuvered. Leo was already being escorted from the room. Peterson walked directly to my husband. Marcus Vance, you are being served with a federal asset seizure and a lawsuit for corporate fraud. Marcus's face was an arrogant, empty mask as he took the papers. Peterson opened his briefcase. Inside were stacks of documents showing offshore accounts and laundered funds. Illicit transfers, Peterson announced. Hundreds? We have confirmation of at least $30 million. He signaled his team. Secure the room. With Leo's hand on my arm, I finally stood. I watched as security escorted Marcus from the room. He stopped and looked right at me. For a second, our eyes met. He almost sneered. Then the conference room doors clicked shut. Julia was led to a separate office for questioning. Her lawyers were already in full crisis mode. Our attorney, Chen, returned to us, looking drained. It's over, he said. Thorne has lost control of the firm. My legs felt like they might give out. Leo kept me upright. We won, I whispered. He nodded. Justice. Chen's phone chimed. We have it. Marcus's original signed charter. It's all here. The instructions for Isabel, the hidden legacy clauses. It's a legal time bomb, Chen said, his voice grim. This unwinds his entire scheme. He looked at me. The board now has an undisputed case. We'll need your leadership, Ilara, starting now. Can you do that? I nodded. I'll be ready. Chen extended a hand. Thank you. Your courage was remarkable. I took it, my eyes suddenly burning. Leo and I walked out into the main lobby. Lawyers were finalizing documents, the whole floor buzzing with activity. As we headed for the elevator, I glanced at the empty boardroom, its treachery exposed. This was the start of a new chapter. The arbitration had been a private war. The room was tense. Reporters, anxious shareholders, and my family waited outside. His mentor, Daniel Peterson, sat with his wife, Anne. Their own son just stared at the floor. I sat with my own legal counsel. Leo and Isabel were seated just behind me. The room felt suffocating. It was October 18th, 2025. A year of deception was over, a year of quiet legal battles and endless anxiety. Today was the reckoning. The mediator's voice was sharp. All rise. Miss Albright came in, a woman renowned for her sharp mind and decisiveness. She took her seat, and the defendants were led in, wearing their expensive dark suits. Marcus came in first. He would not look my way. Then came his accomplice, Julia, her face a pale, tight mask. A compromise board member, Mr. Hayes, followed, looking queasy. Finally, the offshore accountant, known simply as the Ghost, appeared as relaxed as if he were at a networking lunch. They all sat with their legal teams. We are here for the ruling in the binding arbitration of Thorne Architectural Group versus Marcus Thorne and co-defendants, she announced. My lawyer stood, holding a tablet. On the matter of fraudulent conveyance, we find Marcus Thorne liable on conspiracy and breach of fiduciary duty liable. Each declaration was a final nail. Julia Langley, complicit in fraud and ethical violations, liable. Board member Hayes, gross negligence, liable. The Ghost, for violating international finance laws and conspiracy, liable. My lawyer sat down. The board petitions for the maximum allowable financial restitution from all parties, Madam Arbitrator. Miss Albright nodded. This council will hear one final statement, Mrs. Vance, if you're willing. My knees trembled as I got to my feet. Leo gave my hand one last squeeze before I walked toward the table. I looked at Marcus, but he was examining his own hands. My husband didn't just break his vows to me, I began, my voice trembling. He broke the foundational promise of this company. Daniel Peterson was his mentor, and he destroyed him for being too trusting. He tried to divest every single asset from me and our unborn baby without a hint of remorse. my voice finding its strength. He needs to face what he has done. I need him to know that his power and money could not shield him from the truth. Marcus's own sister, Isabel, was crying softly beside me. He earned this, I realized. His family needed this closure. My hands were shaking as I returned to my chair by Leo. The arbitrator stared directly at them. Any final remarks before I issue my ruling? Simone's counsel rose. Your Honor, my client. That's enough, Simone said, her voice sharp. Her lawyer froze, then sat back down. The mediator glanced at Liam, who remained silent. Very well, she said, tapping her datapad. Simone Dubois, your claim against the company's core assets is denied. I am also voiding the executive patent transfer you filed. A murmur spread through the room. Simone's expression was unreadable. Liam Vance, for your role in this attempted fraud, your controlling interest in the company is hereby revoked. He slumped in his chair, burying his face in his hands. Chloe Vance, as you brought this scheme to light, your original founder's shares will be fully restored. Chloe's eyes drifted shut as one tear slid down her cheek. The mediator's final words were absolute. This ruling is binding and effective immediately. All company assets, including the $50 million Helios Fund and the $6 million from the intellectual property sale, will be managed by the new majority shareholder. My heart was pounding. Liam's desperate gamble. It had completely failed. That $6 million will be transferred to the Seattle Youth STEM Collective, fulfilling the elder Meister Vance's memorial pledge. A sad thought surfaced. For Liam's father, for the visionary he was meant to be. The mediator's sharp tone sealed their professional doom. This mediation is concluded. 2 security officers escorted a furious Liam and an unnervingly calm Simone out of the room. She swept past me, her gaze fixed straight ahead. His sister looked back one time, her face a portrait of sorrow and regret. Then she was gone too. His sister caught up with me in the corridor, placing a hand on my arm. Thank you, she said, her voice heavy with unshed tears. Thank you for saving my father's life's work. I drew her into a hug. 2 women wronged by the same man, united in a painful triumph. As the elevator doors closed, my brother Alex touched my arm. Dad would be so proud of you, Chloe, he said softly. I brushed away a tear. It's finally done. Almost, Alex said, holding up a small, encrypted drive. He left one last file for you. I shot him a questioning look. What is it? Alex's voice was low. His real project, the application he was secretly building for you, for the baby. Let's go. We have an appointment. We exited the building, the crisp Seattle air a sudden relief. The legal fight was over, but one last piece of his legacy remained. The innovation lab in the tech district was a different universe. No lawyers, no stress. Just me, Alex, and Liam's old mentor in a quiet office. It was mid-November 2025, a month after the hearing, and the company's founding charter was being reinstated. Mr. Davies sat with us, the man who had championed Liam's early work. He looked weary but relieved. On the screen was a sealed digital contract. The company's true founding principles, dated June 3rd, 2019, with Liam's own biometric signature. The lawyer, a kind man in his late 60s, started. With the fraudulent patent transfer now void, we can execute the original charter of Vance Innovations, dated June 3rd, 2019. Control reverts to the primary heir. He cleared his throat. 55% of the company, valued at $42 million, to my wife, Chloe Vance. 30% valued at $22 million, to endow the Vance Center for Digital Literacy. My breath hitched. After all that greed, his first dream was being honored. The digital transfer was confirmed. Davies shook my hand. Your husband had an incredible vision, Chloe. I'm so glad we could protect it. Thank you, I whispered, for keeping it safe. An hour later, Alex and I were in his office, initiating a video call. A woman with warm eyes appeared on screen, a colorful display of student projects behind her. I could hear the faint, happy chatter of young people in the background. Mrs. Vance, she started with a gentle smile. I'm Dr. Anya Sharma. Thank you so much for arranging this call today. Of course, I managed, my voice unsteady. Her expression was full of compassion. First, I want to express how sorry we are for your loss and for all you have been through. Your husband's desire to honor his mentor was so inspiring. We are honored to be the stewards of that vision. The $22 million endowment will launch the Vance Fellows program at our center. It will fund coding boot camps and scholarships for kids from underserved communities, which was his mentor's entire life's work. Tears began to blur my vision. I could only nod. Dr. Sharma continued, we are also establishing the Liam Vance Grant for indie developers. Liam's early belief in community-driven tech is a powerful legacy. The initial fund has already attracted $5 million in matching city grants. Because of him, 94 students now have a new future in technology. I covered my mouth, shaking with silent sobs. Alex put a comforting hand on my shoulder. Last week, Dr. Sharma said, Liam's former assistant Claire visited us. She asked me to give you a message. Her voice grew softer. She said, Liam always wanted to build things that helped people. Chloe brought him back to that idea. She cleared his name so it could build futures. That was the only thing he truly ever wanted. The tears flowed freely then, a flood of sorrow and relief. Dr. Sharma waited patiently, her own eyes glistening. When I looked up, she said, he loved you very much, Chloe. He wanted to leave behind a legacy of hope. Because of you, that legacy is now real. We will never forget what Liam and his mentor believed in, and we will never forget you. Thank you, I was able to say. This means more than you know. Dr. Sharma nodded. Our doors are always open to you. Please visit and see the futures you are helping to create. I would love that, I said, and the call concluded. Alex leaned back in his chair. It's over, Chloe, for real. Simone and Liam are out. The company is yours. The center is funded. You got him his justice. He slid a tablet across his desk. One last thing. This is for you. Model. It's finalized, Amelia. Richard's shares are transferred. The tech firm is yours now. I looked at the legal document, my hand shaking as I touched the screen. His company had been a monument to his deception. Owen spoke softly. He built it on ambition, you can rebuild it on purpose for your son. Where do I even begin? I asked. Owen smiled warmly. You steer it towards something good. Create a legacy that matters. A new resolve took hold. All right, I whispered. It's finally finished, I breathed. My brother Owen wrapped a supportive arm around me. We left the courthouse as a cool San Francisco fog rolled in from the bay. Inside me, my son kicked, a tiny promise of the future. It was December 24th, 2025. 8 months since a single shared photo shattered my world. From my new apartment window, the bridge lights twinkled. This place was my safe harbor. The spare room, once for his business partners, was now a soft, waiting nursery. Shelves held children's books my mother sent. The walls were a calming sea glass green. Over the crib, a small mobile of planets and stars drifted gently. This room was the heart of my new life. I switched on a small lamp. A photo of my grandparents, beaming on their wedding day, hung on the wall. Beside it was the first grainy ultrasound picture of him. A note from my mom was pinned nearby. Build a life you love. This was the foundation I was creating for him. The door opened. Owen carried 2 mugs of tea. He looked weary but hopeful. Ready? He asked. I smiled. I am. The company's new mission as a foundation was going public. Our first grant was funding a coding camp for underprivileged girls. This was a world away from Richard's venture capital deals. Last fall, Owen and I escaped to Big Sur. We hiked the coastal trails, sorting through my thoughts. We sat by the ocean and wiped the last of my old life from the cloud. It was a clean, necessary break. Now my small balcony was covered in planters. The salt air was sharp and clean. The San Francisco skyline sparkled. a backdrop for our new start. Owen handed me my tea. He pulled out a small, worn box. Inside was a simple silver bracelet, our grandmother's. So different from the necklace I saw on a shared receipt. A gift for his investor. A new beginning, he said softly. He helped close the delicate clasp on my wrist. I raised my mug, and he did the same. To Amelia, he said, his voice firm, and to my nephew, to building something better. The mint tea was warm and honest, everything my marriage was not. Below, the traffic on the Bay Bridge streamed by like a silent river of light. "You're going to be an amazing mom, Amelia," Owen said. "You're tougher than you know." My life was rebuilding, this time based on truth and family, not secrets. In the window's reflection, a different woman stared back, her hand on her belly. The betrayal from the one you trust most is a unique and devastating kind of pain. I learned that when my husband, a tech CEO, chose his next funding round and his venture capitalist partner over our family and our unborn son. My only wish was for his downfall. But revenge would have corrupted my son's future, so I chose to build instead. Don't dismiss the little red flags before they become an earthquake. Find the strength to see the truth. Don't let fear make you complicit in your own heartache. Forgiveness is a gift to myself, not to him. He destroyed my past, but he will not dictate my future. My son reminds me of that promise. Have you ever faced a similar heartbreak? How did you begin to heal? Please share this if it might help someone. Note that these accounts are dramatized for storytelling. If this topic is too difficult for you right now, please feel free to explore other stories on this channel that you might enjoy more.